Speaking right now, Charlie Weis is walking into the room. Sit down at the table. We'll have an introductory session.
Thank you, Chancellor. Thank you for being here today. 10 days ago, I stood in this room and told the football team I was going to hit the road and find the best football coach for the University of Kansas. I set out to find the best, and I found Charlie Weis. Coach Weis has tremendous experience and success at the highest levels of the NFL and collegiate football. He has an incredible football mind. He is disciplined, principled, and a tireless worker. We believe he is the right coach at the right time to put Kansas in a position to raise the bar and compete in the Big 12 Conference. At the end of the day, I know that Coach Weis will assemble a strong staff, and that together with them, the University of Kansas will attract top recruits on a national scale. We've had several coaching changes in recent years. The Chancellor and I didn't feel like we needed a jump start. We believed that we needed a power surge. That power surge is Coach Weis.
Yes, I need my hip replaced, you got it. I'm still suffering the repercussions of a sideline hit in 2008. Two knees and a hip, I think that'll be just about ready to get it done. Well, thank you very much for the warm introduction, Chancellor and Dr. Zenger. I'm very happy to be here at the University of Kansas. I think that probably the number one thing that I want to do is to, before we open up for Q&A, is kind of give you how this materialized. But yesterday morning at 7 o'clock, I get a phone call from Coach Muschamp saying that Dr. Zenger had called up to ask permission to talk to me. So then we were going to get together at about 11:45 down in Florida. So it gave me an opportunity to spend time really discussing this with my wife Maura and my son Charlie. We had plenty of time. We had all morning to really discuss the pros and cons, like do we want to do this, do we not want to do this, why would we do this, why would we want to do that. And we're a very, very, very tight family. And at the end of the day, we came to the unanimous decision that if the situation were right, presented itself in a unique way, that we would be interested. So then we started the interview process, and it was a grueling day. We went through, I'd say, a good 5 hours going back and forth on the pros and cons of the job and why you would do it and why you wouldn't want to do it. And I have to give you a little personal background why it became more grueling. See, we have, in addition, the fourth member of our family is my daughter Hannah. Now, Hannah is 16 years old. She's globally developmentally delayed. She has special needs. And Hannah, really, struggles with moves and anytime there's really change, it's not a good thing for Hannah. Hannah was the main reason why, we ended up leaving the Kansas City Chiefs a year ago, trying to find, a better niche for Hannah to let her flourish and thrive and be happy. When we went and took the job down at the University of Florida, we actually found for the first time in our lives, Hannah truly happy. We found a school down in Ocala, Florida called Hillcrest, which is a public school for nothing but kids with special needs. And we've never seen Hannah happier, ever. She talks more, she's more vocal, she's singing, she's asking to go to school. We drive her from we have a long driveway, so my wife drives her in the car to the bus. On the weekend, she keeps on going up to my wife and saying, car, shoes on, shoes on. Like, she wants to go to school. It's a first. It's never happened before. So for us to leave that, there had to be a special circumstance for us to be able to do that. So Maura and I came to the realization that moving Hannah was not the way to go. Hannah was going to have to stay in Florida. Therefore, Maura was going to have to stay in Florida. So then how was this going to work? How is this going to work as a family? And after I offered to give her endless private plane flights back and forth from Ocala to Lawrence, that was what flipped the switch. You know, that's when we actually could find a way to make it work as a family. That's the first time that this became a possibility and a reality. So after we came to that, and we went back and forth with Dr. Zanger, really you looked at Kansas and say, okay, why are you taking the job at the University of Kansas? So I'm going to ask one rhetorical question here, which really should make sense to all of us. Now, University of Kansas this year was 2-10. Okay, the other major school in the university in the state of Kansas State, was 10-2. I only have one question to ask. Why? Why is the University of Kansas 2-10, and why is Kansas State 10-2? I don't have that answer, but that's what I'm here for. I'm here to figure out why that is, and see what we're going to do to change that. And that's really the bottom line. I don't have a magic wand I'm going to wave, and all of a sudden we're going to flip the switch, and now we're 10-2. But all I know is that we're the University of. No, we're the University of Kansas, and that's just not acceptable in any way, shape, or form. I think it's very important never to really look back and sit there and be condescending and demeaning to either the players from last year or the coaches. It doesn't do anyone any good. My job right now is to figure out, okay, here's the issues, how are we going to go about fixing them? So really the two things I have to do right here from the start is assemble the best staff I can assemble while making sure we pound the pavement and recruiting, while making sure these kids finish these exams that they have coming up this week as well, and see if you can't get this all done, hire a strength coach and get everyone set and ready to go so that by the middle of January you kind of have everything in place. Because the first thing you're going to have to do is put these players through a grueling offseason to change the mentality of the players. It's not going to be pleasant around here in the springtime. There aren't very many things I can promise, but I can promise you that. It's not going to be pleasant. I've already told them in my New Jersey phraseology, okay, here today, okay, that this will enjoy your Christmas holidays. Go home, enjoy, have fun. Because when you get to the middle of January, it's not going to be very pleasant. And I think that they've had a very clear understanding. I basically posed the same question to those guys that I said to you right now. How are we going to go start closing that gap, flipping that switch, getting that 2-10 team and the 10-2 team on different planes? So that's why I'm here. Look, I'm not the greatest coach in the world. Okay, I'm just an old ball coach. That's what I am. I was groomed under Bill Parcells and Bill Belichick. Okay, and the way I figure it, they're both going to the Hall of Fame. So why should I try to reinvent the wheel? I mean, why not copycat what they do? I mean, look, I'm not the smartest person in the world, but I'm not the dumbest either. I know that Bill Parcells, to this day, I've never, ever seen anyone that's any better of a master psychologist with a football team and organization than him. He would know every single person in this room. He used to do it with the media all the time. He'd play with you. He'd have fun with you. Okay, because he was always in control. He would know what buttons to press, okay, with every single individual to try to get you to a different level than you thought you were capable of being. Whereas Belichick is a totally different person. His two greatest strengths are both his insight into the game and his foresight. He's well above almost every coach I've ever seen in just the study of the game, the insight that he puts into it. While at the same time, he's always thinking down the road. That's what separates his organizations from most. That's why, even though we're talking pro football in that case, on draft day, they always have 100 picks. Because he was always preparing for things down the road. So with those two men and coaches as mentors, and valuable experiences that I've been able to share, both on the pro level and on the college level. I've learned a lot of things over the day. Made a lot of mistakes. A lot of them say, why did you do that? That was very, very, very dumb. I've learned how to show humility. I've learned how to be more humble in my approach, but I've never lost my passion or drive to win. I want to win. I'm a bad loser. I'm sometimes a bad winner, according to my family, but I'm certainly a bad loser. And I would expect everyone else to be the same way. So with that in mind, I'm very thankful for this opportunity. Okay, the best part for the Weis family now is we now see the end of the rainbow. Okay, we see how we're going to be here at the University of Kansas until I'm done coaching, and then I'm going to be retired with my wife and my daughter while my son tries the trials and tribulations of coaching. We've done all we can to try to talk him out of it, folks. We've done everything we can, but that's what he wants to do. So you want utopia? I've said this to both Chancellor and to Dr. Zenger. Utopia is me walking away from here a bunch of years from now. You're getting rid of one Charlie Weis and hiring another one a lot cheaper. So on that note, I'd like to open it up for some question and answers. A good percentage of them, what you have to do, especially in today's age, you have to do background checks, and the more states that the coaches have lived in, the longer that process takes. So we're currently coaches sometimes live in multiple states. So we're currently going through background checks. In addition, I am going to talk to the entire staff from here on Sunday, because I believe that's the proper protocol, is to make sure you do that. And I know I'm keeping at least Reggie Mitchell will at least he will stay on. I don't know how many others in addition will stay on, but I know that I've already talked to him, and he's already on board. He's already had enough of me, but I've only been here a few hours. But we'll talk to everyone here first, and then over the next couple of days, nail down probably 80 to 90% of the staff.
Coach, do you see any similarities between Notre Dame when you took over that program versus this program?
Well, the one valuable thing for me is, my Notre Dame job was my first go-around, and the different transition for me was I was going from being only an NFL guy to college. So I had a lot of things that I had to learn in the transition, the differences between the NFL and college, and had to hire a college staff, which most of these guys I had never met before. So now, because I've worked at both levels, I have resources available to me as far as people that I didn't have before, and I also have knowledge that I didn't have last time, which makes things, a lot easier going forward.
What are some of the differences between NFL and college that you've learned?
Well, the first thing is time is totally different. The NFL time and the college time is totally different. So you only get players in college for 20 hours a week. That's what you get them for. Okay, so the whole approach in college, they have classes till mid-afternoon. So you have really from early in the morning till mid-afternoon to kind of do all your due diligence as far as what you want to do. Whereas in the pros, you're with those guys from early in the morning till dinner time. So all the work you do then becomes at nighttime. And it's 11, 12, 1 o'clock in the morning, and you're still working on the next day's preparation. Obviously you can do more in the pros because you have them endless hours. But the flip side of it, it's really not a good family environment in the pros. And that doesn't mean families aren't important to the coaches, but the time doesn't allow any time for families. I mean, the best part of being involved in college athletics is more family friendly. And you really, if you're a family guy, you want it to be more family friendly. And that's the thing. That's probably the thing that I enjoy the most about being around college. Now, you're dealing around 18 to 23-year-old kids that do a lot of stupid things, but that's what college is all about. College is growing up. Every one of us that went to college, the number one thing we did was grow up, learn how to make decisions on our own, good and bad. Of course, mine were all good when I was in college, but you make good and bad decisions and you grow up. That's what they're going through right now. My wife and I often talk about the big difference of betting on kids to be successful versus betting on grown men. Okay, but they're apples and oranges. It's not the same. What is the same is your work ethic is the same. You work the same. You work just as hard. You care just as much. Winning is the same. Losing is the same. Those things are all the same. Okay, but you're dealing with a little different mentality and psychology in college than you are in pros.
Why become a head coach again?
It was too good of an opportunity. It was too good of an opportunity to pass up being able to go into a place that was, down low and being able to see it through the rise back up top. I mean, anyone who's goal-driven in anything, okay, whether it was a startup taking a business that was doing bad and turning it into good, it's no different. This is what I do. Okay, so you have an opportunity. The team is 2-10, and you're going to be the one directly involved with all the decisions that take that team from 2-10 and move it to the other side of the spectrum. That's really the main reason.
Charlie, how soon after Notre Dame did you absolutely know you wanted to coach again, be a head coach? I mean, the whole time?
I really wasn't concerned with being a head coach, to be honest with you. I wasn't concerned with it one bit. I wasn't concerned with being a head coach Wednesday morning at 6:59.
So
I was the offensive coordinator of Florida, and you want to know something, Dennis? Couldn't have been happier. Would have liked to have won more games, getting ready for the Gator Bowl. No, couldn't have been happier. Love Will Muschamp, love Jeremy Foley, love the people from the University of Florida. I got nothing but good things to say. How many times you get to leave a place feeling good about a place? Usually you walk out of it feeling bad. I mean, I couldn't say enough good things about that place. But Dr. Zanger called, and I thought it was something, after talking to Moore and Charlie, something worth listening to. And it was a very compelling presentation. And then it was a grueling Q&A that we went back and forth, and really at the end of the day, we saw things eye to eye. Like their vision and my vision kind of coincided. And then when you meet the boss and get it rubber stamped, so you're okay. I think that's really at the end of the day what that was all about. But as of Wednesday morning, I had no intention.
So just to be sure, this got done in the last 2 days?
Got done yesterday.
What's the one thing you take away from Notre Dame that you're going to do differently there that immediately you have to do differently?
Got about an hour. Let's start with staff. I hired a bunch of good coaches. Bunch of good coaches, but never really got it right. I really never got it right. Whether it was, chemistry on offense or going through multiple coordinators on defense. Too many head coaches point the blame at all the other guys rather than taking the blame themselves. But really, at the end of the day, I never got it right. Because if you got it right, you'd still be there and you'd still be the head coach. Okay, at least, that's the way it ends. You'd like an opportunity to finish it out, but, after a couple of mediocre seasons, they decide to move on. You can understand that as a football coach, that's part of doing business. But I think chemistry and a coaching staff is a critical factor, sometimes very much underrated. Everyone wants to give me the names. I could give you a conga line of some of the best coaches in America that want in here. Now the question is, are they going to fit? Are they going to work together? Can they work with me? Can they work with each other? And I think that's probably the thing I learned the most was chemistry chemistry in a coaching staff is a very, very critical factor.
Can you yourself as a guy who's been around this business so long hire a defensive guy and just walk away and say, you handle it, I'm going to worry about the offense?
You'd like to try to do that as much as you can. You never walk away. What you do is you get involved early in the week, just studying the opponent's personnel and saying, hey, based off of what I see, here's where I see them vulnerable. But you don't tell them how to call a defense. Like that's what ideally you'd like to get to. You know, and with a couple of the candidates that I have possible with defensive coordinator, when one of them comes to fruition, you'll see what I'm talking about. You know, I'd like to get to the point, at least in the beginning, let somebody run the defense, let me run the offense and train somebody else to run the offense, and then turn the offense over when you feel everything is running smooth, where you can go ahead and do that.
Did you know much about Kansas football before Wednesday morning?
I knew that they were 2-10.
Yeah.
Kansas State was 10-2. Okay, but have I been here before? I've worked out pros here. I've worked out guys here before for the pro draft. I sat in the rafters for the KU Kansas State game last year. Thank you very much. You know, I've been promised my seats will be better tomorrow.
You talked a little bit earlier about your connection with Belichick, Coach Belichick, and Coach Parcells. I mean, from a schematic and philosophical standpoint, what do you take from those coaches that you do similar now, and what are you different from those guys?
Well, first of all, college is a little bit different because of the fact of the 20-hour work week. Both Parcells and Belichick believed that each week was a separate entity. I mean, you might have one game plan one week, and the next week the game plan might be entirely different. They might be playing 3-4 this week, and next week it might be all 4-man front every single snap. It was what it was going to take to win that game. Well, in college, when you only have them for 20 hours, you have to bank, both in spring ball and the summertime, you have to bank some constants that you can pull out of as resources all throughout the entire season. So the difference is that it goes back to the time being so much different. You can't really compare apples to apples on that one because one's apples and one's oranges.
Coach, what do you know about the Big 12 and your impression of this league? And if you want to compare it to the league you just came out of, we'd love to hear that.
Well, obviously a state of flux, you know, and for me it's not going to be a problem coming in because all the teams are going to be new to me. You know, so having West Virginia in here and TCU in here, that's just who you play. No matter who's here, those 9 games that you're going to have to play, we're all going to be new to me. So for me, I'm coming in when it's already matriculated, so it really doesn't make a big difference to me. You know, I just know that, this is a very, very competitive conference. It's had nothing but good football teams come out of it for a bunch of years, and it's not just this year, last year. It's for the last bunch of years. And the thing is, we want to get to be one of them. You know, we want to be one of those teams that you say, God, look what happened to Kansas. You know, that's what we want to happen.
Were you at all wary about coming back to Lawrence, just a half an hour away from Kansas City, after the way things, at least from our point of view, turned sour with the Chiefs after 1 year?
How many times can you tell the same answer? You want the same answer again? I mean, how many times do you want to hear the same answer?
You haven't heard it today.
You heard it's the same. Well, let's go back and recite the last thing I said when they asked me. I'm leaving Kansas City because our family is going to be better off in a better situation, and the situation ended up being moving to Ocala, Florida. My son was delighted at being down there. My wife's a horse person. She couldn't have been happier. But most importantly was my daughter. Okay, most importantly. Now, nothing's changed. My wife's still delighted. Okay, my daughter's still delighted. My son just transferred about an hour ago. So he just transferred from Florida to Kansas, right before our press conference. We're doing it in a back room in a hallway over here. Okay, getting him over here. So for our family, very little has changed other than my wife and I being able to have to do a lot more traveling to spend time together because she's my closest friend. But nothing has changed. Nothing.
You've had a lot of success with quarterbacks, obviously, including the greatest quarterback of all time.
I agree with that one. Not the last one, the greatest. Not me having success. The greatest quarterback.
What are some Brady qualities that wouldn't be obvious to us watching TV on Sunday that you look for in a quarterback when you're evaluating who to go get?
Well, I'll give you one subjective and one objective. Okay, because I can give you a whole litany, because he's like family to us. So we're obviously openly biased towards Tommy. It's not fair for me to answer. because I can give you a whole conga line of things right there. But an objective analysis one is, since Dan Marino probably, I don't think I've ever seen a quarterback that runs a 6-flat 40. I'm exaggerating. It's probably 5'3", but he claimed in 4s. Okay, be so smooth in the pocket. His feet are so still. Watch him play. There's times he just stands there. There's people all around. He just stands there. And if he has to move a little to the left or a little to the right or back up or go forward, he does it. Finds a window and throws the ball. I've never seen anyone so calm, okay, playing the quarterback position. Now, you go watch him play and you're going to see what I'm talking about. Okay, now, subjectively, there's certain people who have it, and I can't tell you what it is, but he has it. And if you've been around him, you know whatever it is, you know it because that's what it is. I mean, you're around him, you just know you're going to win. He goes in the huddle with a minute to go in the game, you're down by 6, you're counting on kicking the extra point.
Do you find that in a high
You
school
can't define
player,
it.
but
You
can you
can't
find it
define
though
it.
by
No,
watching
it's
a high school player or talking to them?
No. You can go into the school and watch what everyone thinks about him. But see, when I go into school, I like to talk to people other than the coaches. Because the coaches are always going to say how great the kid is. I like talking to the custodians. I like talking to the lunch lady. I like talking to the police guy who works in the school. Because they're the ones that tell you what the kids are really like. I mean, you can watch on tape to see if they can play. But you like to see how the kid is viewed by his peers in view of leadership. And as long as you have a quarterback that's viewed as a leader, you got a good chance.
Coach, can we ask you about your quarterback last year? I know you've been busy this year and haven't sat around watching the Chiefs. Has it been tough to watch what they've gone through and Matt getting hurt? And it's been a tough year for Coach Haley.
Well, Matt's been ragging me pretty good here for the last 24 hours here now. I mean, he's hit me a couple times. He's hit me pretty hard. So I'd like to take this opportunity to sling some arrows. But, hey, I'm rooting for the Chiefs. You know, I have a lot of fond memories from our 1 year there. You know, there's a lot of people in the organization I'm pulling for. But I'm worried about the University of Kansas. You know, and one thing we learned a long time ago, that when you leave a place, you can root for people, but you can't really root for the place because the only place you're really going to root for is the people you're working for. I got too many friends from too many places in that league to just zero in on one base. You know, Matt Castle will always be viewed very positively by the Weis family, I can tell you. That will never change. You know, and I hopefully one day next week I get together with them, But first things first, I got these couple little issues like getting the staff together and going out and doing some recruiting.
Yeah, Coach, have you made any recruiting calls, and is there any chance that some of them will be on campus as early as this weekend?
Oh, there's going to be some people on campus this weekend. One tall guy that you might recognize, but you know, all I can do is confirm or deny, you know, people per NCAA rules. The NCAA rules do not allow you to talk about anyone you're recruiting, but you know, you might even see somebody come give me a big hug at the basketball game tomorrow. You know, just maybe, that might just happen.
Right, how long are you on the IR with the hip?
Pardon me?
How long are you on the IR with the hip, and how is that going to? I know you had
Actually, I'm really looking forward to it. I have to tell you, that might sound sick. Okay, but after having 2 knees are pretty tough. I got wiped out. Both my knees went on that same hit. You know, so I had the right one done in 2008, the left one done in June 2nd of this year, and the final piece of this, my left hip, was bone on bone. So, you know, I'm really looking forward. I'm the only person in here that can't wait to get their hip replaced. I'm really looking forward to it, you know, because it's going to be nice to wake up and not feel any ache.
When are you having it done?
Soon, within the next couple of weeks. But you know, I can't do it. I can't do it this week. I got more important things to do this week. But during the dead period, you know, when you can't go out recruiting, I'll go ahead and knock it out.
Have you learned anything about the roster that you're inheriting?
I think that the roster, you know, the big question for me with the roster is, you know, there's not a lot of seniors on the roster, therefore there's not a lot of spots for recruits. But what'll happen naturally, there's always a natural attrition when a coach comes in. So what you have to try to kind of figure out is what that number's gonna be so that you can recruit the appropriate number of people. Other than that, you know, it's still, I'm trying to get a better beat on what that number is so that we can, I don't want to undersign. You know, I don't want to go out there and sign 15 guys if I could sign 25 guys. If I could sign 25 guys, I want to go get 25 guys. And I also don't want to take people just for numbers. I don't want to say, okay, well, we still have 3 more numbers. Let's take those 3. You know, you want to take 3 that kind of fit what your needs are.
Coach, you know Bill Snyder over at K-State, do you have a relationship at all with him?
I have one funny story that you guys will appreciate. Coach Parcells sent me one day there was an offensive lineman, and I can't remember his name, I'm sorry. Okay, but he wanted me to go spend some time with Coach Snyder and ask him about this offensive lineman. So when Coach Parcells sends you on a mission, that's what you go do. So I went in there and asked the secretary, can I have a few minutes with Coach Snyder? He said, certainly, take a seat. 3 hours later, I got 3 minutes. 3 hours. The secretary and I got to be buds. You know, 3 hours there, 3 hours later, and I got my 3 minutes. But, you know, if you work for Coach Parcells, you probably understand Coach Snyder, that, you know, you asked for 3 minutes, you got it. You didn't say you needed it 3 hours earlier, you just said you needed 3 minutes. And that was my experience. It was wonderful.
Have you heard from Coach Parcells or Coach Belichick since accepting the job?
I haven't heard from Coach Parcells. Coach Belichick's, you know, administrator has, you know, got to me in case I needed anything. You know, so, you know, he's kind of busy right now. You know, so I'll have plenty of time to see them. We all have kind of condos within about, you know, a mile from each other down in Florida. So we'll bump into each other down there sometime.
Coach, earlier you mentioned you learned how to be humble. What do you mean by that?
I think that when you first come in, like when you're first time head coach, you go in, you really know what you want to do. Okay, you really know what you want to say, but sometimes when you say it, you know, you sit there and say, why did I say that? Or why did I say it that way? You know, you really look back and reflect and say, you know, that was a really stupid thing to do. And you know, as you get older and more experienced and you sit there and think about that, even though what your message was right, your presentation was way off. And I think that, you know, being older and more polished about what you're doing, it makes it a heck of a lot easier to say the same thing, but say it a little bit different.
Coach, what was it about Dr. Zinger's message with you, connection with you, that made you comfortable in taking over a team that was 2-10? What was the connection that you guys had?
Well, I think that to know that Kansas wasn't satisfied being a basketball school only. They weren't satisfied. You know, the whole country knows about, you know, KU basketball. Everyone knows Bill Self. I mean, you know, everyone knows, knows the player after player that comes out of there, but what do they know about Kansas football? And the fact that every once in a while, you know, win, and everyone remembers the Orange Bowl a few years ago. That's what they remember. Other than that, they don't know too much. And I think that from the chancellor right on down, okay, that wasn't good enough. You know, they'd like for all sports, not just basketball, to thrive and be successful on and off the field. And when I heard that that's what they were looking for, that's what I believe in. So we were on the same page.
Because, Coach, you said last year when you took the Chiefs, the first thing you said you were brought here to fix the quarterback is the one thing. What's the one thing, number one thing that you were brought here to fix?
The record. You don't like my joke.
No, I know. It's good. It's a great answer.
The record. That's what I'm here to fix. The record. Now, there's a lot of things that go into doing that, but you know, who wants to be 2-10? I'm glad that's where the bar is to start, by the way. They went too many as far as I'm concerned. Would have been a little bit easier.
Charlie, given the expectations, what is the tougher job when you walked into Notre Dame day one or this place?
Notre Dame, the one thing issue about Notre Dame is no matter what you say on any day, it's national news. What you say on every day, it's national news. And even when you say things that are right, I mean, somebody reads that one sentence in there that they didn't understand what the whole conversation was, and next thing you know, you're vilified. You're looked at like an arrogant, obnoxious person. What a bad person, what a bad guy. He can't talk to anyone. You can't stand him. He's mean to everyone. And I look at my wife and say, are they talking about me? I can't tell you how many times I've had that. And you want to know those same people when they meet you face to face, well, they'll never have the guts to tell you when they say that. Those same people when they meet you face to face, they walk away saying, is that the same guy? And I think that's probably the thing that we were dissatisfied the most with as a family. How we're viewed as bad people. All we were trying to win as many games as we could, and at the same time doing something special for people with special needs in South Bend. And you want to know something? That they'll never take that away from us.
Question for Dr. Zinger. The last 4 years.
As I look back over the last 25 years in this business, the few things I know about football begins with hard work. Tireless hard work, attention to detail. That's what I found first and foremost in Coach Weis. That relentless pursuit of excellence, passion for the game and for the kids. That's something we haven't talked a lot about. But if you talk to people who know his teams, he's a disciplinarian and they love him. And to me, there's a magic in that.
Dr. Zanger, can you just talk about the process and why you kept it so close to your chest?
I think it just comes from being brought up in the state of Kansas and having a grandma that taught us you don't have to say everything you know. We live in a day and age where people just go out there and they talk and they say things that hurt other people. I wanted to have the ability to meet with quality coaches from across the country at all different levels. And I knew that if I got out there talking too much, there's some individuals who wouldn't talk. One of those might have been Coach Weis. Probably. So really, at the end of the day, it pained me. Some of you guys in this room know I talk to you and pretty open. But when it comes to doing something like this, it wasn't about me. It was about them. It was about protecting people in the business who want to talk about the University of Kansas. And so at the end of the day, it was about protecting other people who are professionals in this business. And I appreciate the fact that you were patient with us through that process. And that's what it's really all about.
Was discipline in the area that you felt you needed to address?
Say that again.
Was discipline in the area you felt like you needed to address maybe?
Yes, and when I say that, I'm not talking about gross misconduct. I'm talking about attention to details and the little things. And that's what Coach Weis is all about.
Jay, can you give us an idea of how many people in the business you talked to about Coach Weis before pulling the trigger?
Multiple. 5 to 10.
Was it important to you to get somebody who had a national name, somebody that you knew the hire would be on SportsCenter?
I would say that was icing on the cake. In my life, that's not something I've ever chased. And so, in meeting Coach Weis, I think you've just seen today, when I sat down with him, I found somebody I didn't expect to see. And that was a little humbling for me as well. And I've enjoyed him, and I think you'll enjoy him.
Coach, you mentioned your son. Is he going to follow you in offense or defense?
Oh, he's an offensive guy. He's not, but I would say he's a communist if he went over to defense.
Charlie, what type of coach are you looking for as a defensive coordinator?
I think you need, especially with the evolving spread offenses that you're seeing. You need defenses that are going to get after the offense. You got to get after them. You can't sit there and play passive in today's college game, because if you do, you're going to be in for a long, hard career night. So I think you need somebody with a lot of energy that is able to understand how to play the whole field. Because if you can't play the whole field in today's game in college, you have a big problem.
What do you say to the the naysayers out there who say, oh, there's no way he's going to have success at KU if you didn't have that great of success at Notre Dame. How do you convince people that you will have success at KU?
Well, there's a couple, my initial response would be, when I went to Notre Dame, we won immediately the first couple of years. Then we got to year 3, where you played a bunch of young pups. Not excuse, just reality. That's what happened. Played a bunch of young pups, got your butt kicked. Okay, got a little bit better. Next year you got a little bit better. Next year you got a little bit better. And, you know, and in a 5-year cycle, you felt that you finally got to the point where you could win on a regular basis. Now, 5 years obviously wasn't quick enough for them. So, you know, I was set to go. But at the same time, in those 5 years, every single player graduated from college. Every one graduated from college. Okay, and in 5 years, you couldn't have counted the problems we had off the field. You could count the problems we had off the field on one hand. So to me, my idea of doing things the right way are a little different than other people's. Because I think that you have an ethical responsibility as the head coach to worry about all those things. Now, as a fan, you want graduation, that's important. You want the kids not to get in trouble, that's important, but you want to win games the most. That's the life of a fan. That's not the life of the head coach. The life of the head coach is those other things are just as important. Do you want to win every game? Oh, what head coach doesn't want to win every game? Okay, but I think it's important not to be a sellout, not to give in. And I think that's the mentality I had when I was there. Okay, so you move on. Okay, you move on. This opportunity presents itself. I'll tell you 2 things that aren't going to change. I told the guys today, this is a little funny anecdote I'm going to give you. I told the guys today that we've also today hired a new academic liaison between the academic support and the football team. And they all looked at me and said, you want to know the good news? That's also me.
Charlie, did Notre Dame give you enough time then? It sounds like in year 6. Then.
It's really a moot point. This is not to talk about that. That's the way my career went. And then you moved on. I don't look back. I always look forward. I never look back. I'm just saying that's what happened. Okay, so you know, today here I am at the University of Kansas. Okay, but I promise you, okay, Chancellor is going to go for, you know, kids not doing the right things academically. She's not going to go for all of a sudden if you have, you know, a litany of police offenses with your kids. So you know, you have other responsibilities. It's kind of like being a dad. You know, you have multiple responsibilities. One of them is to get the program to be a winning football team as quickly as you possibly can. As quickly as you can. But you have other things you have to do because you can't sell out on those other things, or else, you know, you're just not. In other words, that's my conviction. If you're not looking for those things, then I'm not the right guy for your job. Because to me, those things are going to be important.
How much of the roster do you expect to change over?
I expect that anytime a new coach comes in, I would say the natural attrition is 10 to 15 players. There's 10 to 15 players that usually, and this is everywhere. So when people say, well, so-and-so came in and 12 guys transferred, yeah, so every other coach, when they go in, the same thing happened. Same thing happened my first year at Notre Dame. I went to Notre Dame, I think 13 guys left in the first year. Some of them I was very happy they left. I don't know who was happier in some cases, them or me, you know. But at the end of the day, you know, you're recruited by one guy and a different guy comes in and the fit isn't there anymore, and you know, you move on and go somewhere else. So I don't think it'll be because they're anti-me. It's just because a change took place that doesn't feel comfortable, so they move on.
Charlie, we got time for one more question.
All right.
Charlie, you talked about feeling like this is a place where you did you feel that way at other places, or is there something different about Kansas?
The only place that I felt ready that I could retire is Florida. okay, because it really was a wonderful play. It's a wonderful, living experience. You've been living in the Northeast or Midwest your whole life, which I have been, to wake up, yesterday and it's 77 degrees and sunny. That's kind of nice in December. It's kind of a unique experience, and we've been living in cold weather with snow forever. So it's a little bit different. You get soft in a hurry too, by the way. Okay, you get used to that warm weather in a hurry. But I think that this just presented such a unique opportunity. I think that I would have been foolish to not come on board. And our family, we all kind of vote together, the three of us. Hannah cares not to vote. Hannah wants to just, Hannah wants to just have her own little life, and lets us do the voting. So it was unanimous. We all thought this would be good for the Weis family.
Thank you, Coach.